Welcome everyone, this is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about a hot topic, the difference between masculinity and femininity. But we're going to be talking about it in the sense of a superpower. If you are a long-time watcher, listener of the podcast, you already know that I have many coaches from different backgrounds come on, dating coaches. I had a femininity coach come on. I had a masculinity coach come on. And we talked about what's truly going on. The femininity coach, Charlene Briers, we talked about the aspect of the superpower that is femininity. But today, most women choose to be masculine. So we do have to ask ourselves, well, why are more women choosing to be masculine instead of being feminine if their superpower is femininity? But then we have to ask, well, why are more men choosing to be feminine and their masculinity is their superpower? So there is a discrepancy in how we're operating as genders, but we do have a solution. We do have a reason why this is happening. And I talk about it in my most recent blog. We're going to be talking about that today. The blog link is in the description box below, but I'm going to pull that up onto the screen for my video watchers so we can start to break down this blog and then have a conversation. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and to share the video and or audio. And to tell people about the podcast, because this podcast is continuing to grow each and every day. And it's astounding how we have grown through just sharing and just telling people about the podcast. If you listen to it, share it with a friend, share it with a loved one, there's always going to be an episode for somebody, because we talk about so many topics, all related to mindset. If you know anything about me, it is put in a manner where anyone will be able to understand it. And today is going to be no exception. We're talking about how to reclaim your original superpower, whether it be masculinity or femininity. It is going to be a hard pill for some people to swallow. I will say, it's not going to be a mindset OD conversation. Typically in mindset OD, I just state the hard facts, and it's going to be a hard pill for at least one gender to swallow. I typically don't have a filter for men either. Yes, I support men being masculine, but I also don't support men being weak. So you could be a masculine weak man, I'm going to call you out. But we do have to understand the difference. Why is this happening too, right? Why is our world today so confused where we're doing the opposite superpower? Think of Superman, for example. Superman is super good at flying, having heat vision. I think he has X-ray vision. He's super strong, pretty fast. But if we have to put him against Aquaman in the water, who would win? Hopefully Aquaman, right? Because his superpower is water. So we don't put Superman in the water. You don't see many episodes where Superman's in the water. And if you remember the old cartoons, yes, he has a scuba suit. Yes, he has been in the water. But it's not like Aquaman who's always in the water. It's similar to how if you have an entrepreneur who is a jeweler and he's just doing all of these jewelry things, and all of a sudden he's like, yeah, guys, I'm going to start doing real estate. People are going to be like, what? Okay, cool. Yeah, it makes money. But what you were known for, the jewelry, is that out the window? It's similar to how, I'm going to do something crazy. I'm doing mindset coaching. I help people with personal growth. And then maybe now I'm going to be a loan shark. It doesn't work because I'm trying to help people grow, not destroy their lives. So we do have to understand the difference. And it could be a bit extreme when we're talking about masculinity and femininity, and how if you do the wrong one, it can destroy your life. I know it's going to be something that's not going to be true for everybody, because some people are in a relationship where the roles are reversed, and it's perfectly fine. I've talked about it on the podcast. You can have a relationship where there's a masculine and a feminine, and it doesn't matter who is the role. A woman wants to be masculine, cool, but the guy has to be feminine. Having two masculine, it doesn't work. But then we get into this concept and this notion of optional femininity. So you have these ladies, these boss babes, they have a husband. The husband might be masculine, but when they come home, they're super feminine. Around their husband, they're super feminine. But when they're at work, they're super masculine. It can work. What I will say is that sometimes it can become convoluted if you are just so immersed in work and other things and you become so stressed out. you're not going to choose to be optional anymore. You're going to choose exactly what's on your plate, right? So if you have to do a bunch of work stuff at home and you can't leave stuff at work and you're coming home and you just have that masculine energy, at some point there's going to be some discrepancy. Not saying that it can't work, but it's a high probability that it's going to cause some type of rift. Now, when I say that, you don't have to have 100% always femininity or 100% always masculinity. And it's a bit contradicting, right? Because then if a man doesn't have to always be masculine, can he be feminine? There is a concept we're going to be talking about in a bit, and it's going to be talking about obligatory masculinity. I don't know if this is something that I coined, but it's something we're going to be talking about today. Are men just treating masculinity as obligatory? Or are they saying, if I can be feminine, I'm going to actually be better? And we're going to be talking about all that. And even though I'm going to be talking about all that, breaking it down in the episode, this blog right here, Reclaiming Your Original Superpower Masculinity versus Femininity, we go in because there's just so many corners that we have to be able to look at. As you go down and you start reading this blog, you're going to start to maybe get upset. Then you're going to find some leveling, because that's what this is. We're telling you that there is some truth between what is being said, and you do have to take it to heart, because sometimes you might be in a situation saying, well, that's not my situation. I'm perfectly aware it could not be your situation, but I'm talking about the majority of people in the dating or relationship pool currently, and we can even go into the single world where this is going to be an issue. So we're going to be breaking all of that down just right now. So it makes sense to start off just talking about the single people, right? The single players, the men, the single ladies, all the single ladies, Beyonce. When you talk about being single, right? Typically, a woman is going to look for a masculine man, right? She's not going to look for a guy who's like super high in his voice and like flaunting around feathers and stuff like that. She's not going to look at a guy and say, oh, I want to date him. I want to take him home. Typically, that doesn't happen. Why? Because instinctually, women want a masculine man. So they look for a guy who has the best potential to protect them and to provide for them. Okay? That's basically what it comes down to. Yes, aesthetics are going to be some part too, but I can't tell you how many rich gentlemen out there who don't look all that great, but they have a lot of money and they can get smoking hot ladies. So money can talk if looks don't talk for you. But then you have to also look on the other side. Can you be super attractive, be broke, and still get ladies? Yes, you can. I've seen that too. So men, you can be on the spectrum, either or, right? So you could be all the way to the left, all the way to the right. But if you're in the middle, right, you have the best of both worlds. You got decent looks, you got decent money, and you're able to do everything that a man can or should. But then you do have to look on the single lady side. Well, single lady, typically today, are modern ladies. They go for education. They have high debt from college. And they think, this is going to help me in my life. My career is going to help me. Yet, most men, especially successful men, don't care about a woman's career. I know it's a hard pill to swallow, right? This is not Mindset OD. This is telling you the facts. At that point, if her career doesn't matter, why are they doing it? Well, we look at the idea of feminism. You don't need a man. Go out, get your own, get your education, and then start a family later. And that's why most ladies are choosing to be feminine at a later age, because they don't want to start a family at a young age anymore, because it's going to interrupt with their schooling or their partying, right? Their prime years, their golden years, whatever you want to call them. So they go out, they enjoy themselves, and they say, I'm going to worry about the other stuff later. Now, they might be super feminine while they do it, but the mindset is still masculine. I'm going to build before I start a family. Most men think in a way, I'm going to be financially fit before I start a family. Most men. Now, of course, you can be 18, start a family. Again, guys, if you do that, just have the right lady. Ladies, you're going to have a hard time with that, because there's going to be an inkling in you. Oh, I just had kids at such a young age. And you're going to think inside, oh, there's just something else out there for me. And I will tell you, the person that you're with your partner, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, there's another of them out there that's either as good or better. There's just not one soulmate in the world for you. Now, what I will tell everyone from dating for quite some time, going to clubs and bars and stuff like that, playing the field, if you would say, I've gone on a lot of dates. What I will say is the mindset of many of these ladies are truly masculine. And this is even when, before I got married, before the business, really, I was just learning about the mindsets of people, how they were thinking. Femininity was optional for them because even for relationships that I started, we would be in a relationship for about 1, 2, 3 months sometimes, right? And the reason being, first date, I'm a masculine man. I'm going to pay for the date. We're going to have a good time. You're protected when you're with me. She sees that. She feels that. Let's start something. And I will tell you, most, if not all, of the relationships that I started, I ended. And you might ask, well, why are you just tossing all these ladies to the side? Well, the reason being is that they chose to have optional femininity. They want a traditional guy, but yet they want to be a modern masculine lady. And that doesn't work because I understand the dynamic. I don't need 2 masculine people in the household. I need just me. Now, if I get an alpha dog or something like that, whatever, I don't care. But the lady, person, the partner, has to be a feminine natured woman. And it's difficult to find that because so many ladies, again, have been told the feministic type of lie. So we get into the idea now, well, if masculinity is something that they're adopting into their life, how do we fix it so they can choose to be in a relationship and forgo their masculine traits? Well, typically, if you're a boss, babe, or whatever, you own a company, you work in a very stressful place, sometimes having that masculine energy is a good thing. But the issue is, it's only a matter of time before you slip up and you bring that home. You start to spout something or say something. And this is where respect and fear come in. If you haven't seen that video, that episode, or checked out the blog, respect and fear, you're going to learn how to fix that very quickly. But when we look at the idea of just being optional, it works for women, right? We talk about in the blog, I talk about it, where I was talking about how men are choosing to be feminine because it's easier for them because being masculine is actually more work. Look at the Dylan guy who has 8 million followers on TikTok or whatever, because he has chose to be more feminine because it gets more views. It's harder to be a masculine male than it is to be a male that is feminine. Look at, his name is a guy who's a trans swimmer, Leah Thomas or something like that, I think. Leah was 200, 300, seed or whatever in the male competition in swimming. All of a sudden, he's a female, and then boom, number 1. Why? Because men are built different. This is not, rocket science, but it is science that people don't want to pay attention to. People would rather live in fantasy world than take responsibility and take ownership of what's really going on in the world. So we can have a group of people that are thinking in a way that they can be the opposite gender, and it's okay. There are benefits, but there are also going to be some cons too. The pros and the cons. What do we get from that? So if a man is going to be a feminine person, right? He's going to get easier views. It's just reality. He's going to have more access, not as much access as a biological female, but more access. And then he's also going to be able to find a person, and this is if he's not trans and stuff like that, it's just a feminine natured guy now, looking at this aspect, he's going to be able to find an older, maybe a single mother, a lot easier, especially if he's decently established. We do have to look at all of that. But then we look at the other side, where if a woman wants to be a male, she's going to have a lot more hardship. There was a study of a woman who said, I'm going to be a male. And I have it all in this blog, read it, where she decides to be a male, I think for a couple of years or whatever. And after, some time, she came out and spoke about it. And she was like, she was treated so poorly as a male and disrespected, belittled, to the point where she says, I don't want to be around anymore. She ends her life. And it's crazy. A woman who wants to be a man learns that being a man is not all that easy. And I will say, being a man is not easy, but being masculine can be simple. It's a notion that I think people get upset about. Protecting and providing is a simple role. You put your life on the line when you have to. F everything else. And it's a hard pill for men to swallow sometimes. It's like, being a man is supposed to be easy. The role is simple. Okay? It's like black and white. All right? It's simple. We know what we have to do. We have to show up. We have to handle business. And if you don't know, look at the episode with Andrew Cope and myself. Just happened last week. We talked about masculinity. I had a femininity coach on. I had a masculinity coach on. And we talked about these things. Even then, we still have to break them down. So, the role is simple. However, ladies, if you're listening to this, I want you to envision this. The person you're with, dating or whatever, he decides to be a obligatory masculine male. Meaning, he will be masculine when he feels like it. When he's in the mood, right? Because apparently ladies can have optional femininity when they're in the mood, when they feel like it, when they're not stressed, when they're not busy. So why can't men have this obligatory masculinity? Because it doesn't work. Because the moment he doesn't show up in his role, it's an immediate turnoff for the lady. For an example, if you are a guy and you and your girl are out, some thugs come up, start harassing your lady. Now, I'm not saying that you have to hey guys, F off and stuff like that, like showboat and stuff like that. The only thing you have to do is be able to handle your business. That's it. Someone might say something, get real close, you handle it, right? You don't just stay there, passive. You don't just run away, because at that point, that lady's going to say, or that woman is going to say, he can't protect me. Instinctually, she's going to be turned off by you. So, males can't be obligatory. They can have that optional type of masculinity like women have an optional type of femininity. But yet, men will go into marriages now. So we're getting into relationships and marriages now. Men will be in a relationship. They get no sex. The woman doesn't cook. She doesn't clean. She doesn't do the traditional roles. But yet, the man has to pay all the bills. He has to still protect and provide. He has to be there to support the household in any way he has to, kids, etc. So he's doing everything, but yet he's not getting the benefits of marriage, or he's not getting the benefits of being in a relationship. So why should men be in a relationship? Because marriage is a bad deal for men already. Because if women want to leave, they're going to take half his stuff, half his belongings, whatever. Take the kids, the dog, everything. And then he's left there to rebuild. And it's more difficult for a man to build than it is to a woman. Now, I will say, if a woman's later in age, I understand why she does it. Because her value is actually lower than it was in her 20s. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's reality, right? So maybe in her head, she's trying to be like a squirrel. I need to make sure I get all this stuff so I'm protected long term. It could be. But if we look at the 50% of marriages that end in divorce, 70% of the people who file for divorce in those 50% are women. You know why? Because they're not happy, or because the man cannot support them anymore. And the happiness can be, I want to go explore life. I want to go be free. I can't tell you how many girls are like, oh, I want to go in a little 304 phase or whatever. You don't know what 304 is? Google it. We are at an interesting junction for this to be happening. And all of this is just based on someone thinking that they can be the opposite role. Women can be masculine, men can be feminine. Like I said, it can work in a relationship, but men, especially successful men, are going to be looking for a younger woman who can have a lot of kids, and that's going to be like a lady in her 20s. We don't care about her degree. We don't care about her job. And I know it hurts ladies because they work so hard for it. They don't care. All right? If you want an average guy, 50K, 60K, all day long, he will love your role. He will love your job. He will appreciate you. The downside is you are going to be more likely to leave him, divorce him, because of lifestyle, because of circumstances, because of the role dynamic. A man should be the breadwinner when it comes to masculine and female nature. I know. It's one of those things saying, oh, I make more than my man, I still love him. Okay, cool. For how long? How long are you going to stay in a marriage where you are the breadwinner, where you might have other successful guys all in front of you all the time? You're going to be enticed. You're going to be thinking about it. You know why nurses, 57% of them, have affairs? Because they're always around doctors. Doctors make more money than a construction worker or a salesperson maybe. Just saying. So a woman will always trade up. It's very unlikely she will trade down. A man can marry a peasant. A queen will never look a peasant in the eyes. And that is where we are. Femininity and masculinity, there's a superpower. And all of it is just going to be how you want to live your life. You could be a male, you could be feminine. You could be a male and you can have obligatory masculinity, but you're going to end up always being broken up with. Or you could be a true-natured male. Know what you want. Look at the interview last week. Masculinity, what is that to you? How do you get it? How do you maintain it? How do you grow it? Femininity, what is that to you, ladies? You're going to see, okay, is it optional for you? Are you more masculine at work? Do you have to be? And have you ever not been masculine in the household? It's going to be a conversation for some marriages, some relationships. Most of the people who come from marriage counseling, relationship counseling with me, they're in a broken relationship where the roles are not defined well. Where you might have a man who's super average, but he's being super feminine. And the girl's just turned off. And the girl's being super, aggressive, trying to say, well, I want to be happy. She might be feminine still, but she still has masculine natures, tendencies, because of career. And I have found that if a woman has a career, it's no fault to the man per se, because we live in a society currently where both parents have to work to make ends meet, but that doesn't have to be the reality. Most people can show up where one income can pay everything, but most people are not going to rise to that level. And even if you rise to that level, you have to ask yourself, what type of lifestyle do you want? Because you can have a $50K lifestyle and be perfectly happy, but you might be a person that wants to have $1 million lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with that, but you might need 2 incomes to get there. So you can work together to get to your goal a lot sooner, or you can just build yourself up and then work from the bottom. I will say, it doesn't work for everyone. Getting into the superpower now, right? A male is most powerful when he understands his strength. Dominant, assertive, combative, the male traits. However, when a male is being his true masculine self, something amazing happens. He is considered toxic. He's a bad boy, right? He's your Andrew Tates, your Tristan Tates of the world. He's your Jordan Petersons, even though Jordan Peterson is not really toxic. He just spouts something that is true masculinity, assertiveness, right? Dominance. And that right there is a turnoff for woke culture. Woke culture is just saying, hey, men be weak, men be feminine, men be passive. Because if men are not going to show up when there's a problem, more problems are going to keep on showing up. So we do have to understand that that is a back thing happening in mindset, happening in society. Weaken men so you can weaken a nation. And America is following lovely in that most men are choosing to be weak. I talk about it. I hold no remorse for men who choose to be weak. Men should always choose to be masculine, should always choose to be strong. And if you're labeled toxic because of it, who cares? Woman, I don't care if you want to be masculine. I don't care if you want to be feminine. If you're with a true natured masculine male who is going to say, there's no choice but for you to be female around me in my presence and to do exactly what I want. And I know it's difficult, right? Because you're already in that feminist type mindset. I understand. I hear you. I know. You are going to have a hard time in that relationship because you're going to say, he's a narcissist, he's possessive, he's controlling because he's masculine. And most masculine men know what they want. and they're going to keep on going until they get it. And if someone's not part of the plan, that person needs to go. And it's a hard pill for ladies to swallow because girls want to go out, do their own thing, go out with the girls, go have fun. Cool. They want to go work, not take care of the kids. Cool. You can have an agreement, an unspoken agreement that you speak about that makes everything work. But what I will tell you is there's a lot more hardship in those relationships because the moment one piece breaks, everything else stops. And it's more difficult to fix something that has a lot of pieces than something that's just one or two pieces. Because now you can see what's broken versus the other, you don't really know what's wrong. Well, I don't know what's wrong. And that's where most relationships are today. They don't even know what's wrong because they don't see what they're doing as wrong. So obligatory masculinity is wrong to females, but to society, hey, go for it. Who cares, right? There's no remorse. There's no repercussions until the guy wants to be in a relationship and he finds he's having a hard time being in a relationship. Ladies, you can get a relationship if you're a masculine-natured lady or if you are a feminine-natured woman. I will say a feminine-natured woman should do a better job at choosing guys because she's more valuable as a wife than a masculine lady, boss babe, 35, with a cat and a dog, career first, then wants to start a family. She's less valuable to a guy. It's a hard pill to swallow. It's almost mindset OD, but we do have to look at the nature. The superpower that you have should not be squandered, should not be relinquished because you feel a certain way. It should not be put on the back burner because you were told something. Males should always choose to be masculine, and females should almost always choose to be feminine. If you want to be a female entrepreneur, it helps to be a little bit masculine. That's just the way it is. But if you want to be in a marriage, right? Now you say you want to be in a marriage. Depends on your age. Typically, if you're in your 20s, you're still feminine. If you're in your 30s, you probably have some, toxic mentality, some toxic masculinity going in your brain where it's not helpful to a relationship. You're going to have a harder time. You're going to have a harder time in that relationship. And you're going to have to settle for a guy because you're probably not going to want to submit to a guy. And a guy who is well established might not want to be with you, especially if you have kids. I always say single mothers and single fathers should get along, right? They should start a relationship, have a family. They've been married. They've been through the hardship already. They both have kids. It's a good place for average people to be. If you are just a guy, multiple wives, an abundance lifestyle, money, have 50 wives. It doesn't matter. There's a reason why a man can have as many children a year as he can, and a woman can have one pregnancy. Now, during that pregnancy, she could have 8 babies, but it's not going to stop a man from having 8 different wives because that can happen in 1 year. We're not built the same. Biologically, we're different. Mentally, we're different. And both complement each other. And the gender that you are, you should step into the role that is your superpower. So men, being masculine is your superpower. You can be so much more successful if you can harness it, if you can commit to it. It's the trick for men, or the secret, whatever you want to call it. If you can commit to it long term and you become omnipotent in that realm, right? Whatever. Men, if you choose to be feminine, yes, you are going to get your 15 minutes of fame, but it's going to burn out. I'm telling you, it's going to burn out. And at some point, you are going to find yourself in a relationship with a masculine woman who's older, who might not have any kids because she can't have kids anymore. And that's going to be your life. Now, if you don't want a family, cool. That's going to be a good relationship for you. Ladies, if you choose to be masculine first, understand that you're wasting your years of fertility, of growth, of potential for a career that doesn't mean anything to a man. Now, it might mean something to you and your parents and your family. Kudos, keep going. Don't stop. But understand what is the end goal. I cannot tell you how many ladies that I've spoken with where they say, oh, I got my career and things like that, but eventually I want to be a stay-at-home wife. I don't want to go to work anymore. So why would you spend $150,000 on a degree you won't need? Because you probably could have made whatever money you made minus $150,000 doing whatever you wanted, found a marriage, and then been fine. If you want to do some online classes, start a little business on the side, cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you choose to be that masculine person first, you're going to have a hard time, okay? This is saying that you're going to have a hard time later on. It's not until you choose your superpower, being feminine, where you're going to start to attract more guys that matter. You're not going to get the run-of-the-mill guys anymore. You're not going to get the average guys anymore. You're going to start to attract quality, and that's the difference. You want to attract quality, ladies. You want to be with quality. You don't want to just be with anybody. You want to be with a quality guy. That is what matters. Men, you want the best woman, the best mentality woman you can find, the best mindset wife you can have. That's going to help you. That's going to help you be more successful. And we talk about it in this blog. Reclaiming Your Original Superpower, Masculinity versus Femininity is a blog that's going to be a must read if you are single, if you're in a relationship, or if you're in a marriage. That means everybody. You are going to learn just what is truly going on in the minds of men and women. Most of the stuff we talk about in this blog is going to be things that society has said you can have, and it doesn't matter the consequence. And that you're going to be raised as a king or a queen if you do this, or a boss babe, or you're going to be a toxic male. So they have the negativities, they have the positivities. What I can tell you is that it's going to create a divide, and it's going to create a confusion for all people involved if you cannot step into your power. That power is your true superpower. Just as I said early on, Superman is not going to be fighting whales in the ocean. He fights people on land. That's where his superpower is. So it makes sense that men step into their role, women step into their role. If you want to adjust things, cool. I have a term for that. Nothing wrong with it. There's a couple types of relationships, right? There's 4. You have your traditional type of relationship. Those are very hard to come by. Extremely difficult. Not impossible. Very difficult. Then you have your modern relationships. Those are a dime a dozen. You find those every single day. I can go out right now, start a modern relationship. Not a problem. That's the easiest thing I can do. Then we get into a traditional with modern flares. Now that's going to be your most traditional person mindset, typically all with modern values. So a 2 working household, right? So both people are working. You have maybe a business owner that's a female, right? So you got the masculine type of mindset, but chooses to be feminine at home, but then also chooses to be feminine saying, I don't feel like having sex. I have a headache. I had a busy day at work. Right? Cool. Right? And the guy accepts it. He steps into his feminine nature. He doesn't say, no, woman, we're going to be doing something. Whatever you want to call it, traditional with modern flares. Then you go into your modern with traditional flares, and those are going to be like your open relationships, polyamorous, a lot of cheating, back together. All of that happens in those types of relationships. You might want the traditional type of relationship, but you're more interested in being happy when it comes to modern, right? Happiness is forefront. And at some level, happiness is going to be in our mind that we're going to be focusing on. The problem is masculinity doesn't always look like happiness. I'm sure you don't want to, get in a fight, and I'm sure you don't want to always have to stand up for your lady and stuff like that. But showtime is showtime, right? Handle your business. And ladies, I'm sure you don't always want to, pleasure your man and, rub his feet and his back, because you might have had a hard day too. I understand. Understand what you want. Understand what you're willing to sacrifice. Understanding what you will give. You're not going to want to give every day. It's perfectly fine. But you do have to understand, what is the alternative? Do you want a weak man? Do you want a strong man, ladies? Do you want a guy who's going to be able to handle everything, or a guy that you have to support? You have to ask these questions. Men, do you want a woman who's going to be masculine, going out with the girls, talking to a bunch of guys and, her social medias? Or are you going to want a woman who's going to be a stay-at-home wife, love you, the kids, raise a good house, cook, clean, do everything? What is that going to bring you? Because when a man can focus more on his goals, and he doesn't have to take care of the family, he doesn't have to take care of the house, It's all taken care of. He has a burden taken from him, lifted off from him. A true masculine natured male will say, how can I work as hard as I can today? I understand I might not get the results for 10 years, but I'm going to work as hard as I can every single day to work for something better. And it's not about the 9-to-5 rat race stuff. It's about building something, building an empire. How do you do that? That's a different episode. Maybe we'll get to it next week or the week after. But we are trying to understand how we can grow as individuals. And the best way we can grow is by understanding our true superpower. So I encourage everyone to read this blog. The link is going to be in the description box below, so you can easily check it out and learn how your superpower can help save your life. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me coachinginsession@gmail.com, and I'll see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone take care.